This is GARIS Masculist MGTOW flyers, that is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 405, entitled A Masculist U-Turn on Third Wave, that's Empowerment, Feminism. Description. This flyer pushes the idea that the masculists need to revise their negative attitudes towards third wave feminists, since the latter need the support of the masculists to force the legislation by the demographic politicians of a 6-year maternity benefit, so that women careerists who choose to be mothers of 2 kids, in brackets, to ensure that whole populations don't get wiped out, do not lose income by staying at home looking after small kids. It's in masculist self-interest to have wives or female partners who earn as much as they do, so that men do not have to bear the lion's share of earning the living for the family. Flyer itself. A Masculist U-Turn on Third Wave, that's Empowerment, Feminism, by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. This flyer is to some extent a continuation of the previous one, that is flyer number 404, entitled Details on Women's Career Mother Timeline, CMT. In that flyer I spelled out a timeline for women, giving concrete ages at which I consider it would be prudent for women to study, to work, to have kids, to work, etc., so that 3 sets of criteria would be satisfied. That is, women's need to have careers and be mothers of 2 kids. Men's needs to have female partners who are FIPs, that's financially independent persons, and not parasite as fluffies off the labour and money of a man. And demographic politicians' needs to ensure that whole populations are not wiped out by keeping the birth rate above 2.1 children per woman. In that flyer, I suggested that to entice a woman to take some time off from being a full-time careerist, so that she can stay at home for about 6 years, in brackets, the time needed for her 2nd child to go to kindergarten, she needs to be paid by the government for her lost income that she would have earned if she had remained a full-time careerist. These ideas make me more conscious that the feminists don't currently have enough power to force governments to do such a thing, so that it is in the self-interest of masculists, who are also demographically, politically minded, to support the third wave feminists who are out to empower women and maybe not necessarily in men's interests. This flyer is about a U-turn that masculists need to make in their attitudes towards third-wave feminists, in order that enough moral, economic and political pressure be brought to bear on the demographic politicians, that the latter provide the money from taxpayers to pay for women to stay at home raising their 2 kids, while they are too young to attend kindergarten, that is, while the kids are less than 4 years old. In practice, the CMT, Career Mother Timeline, suggested for women was roughly as follows: assuming that the woman is upper middle class, goes to university, gets a master's, and chooses to have 2 kids, partly due to her own wishes and partly due to social and governmental pressure on her and her male partner to have 2 kids. Otherwise, longer term, whole populations get wiped out. There's no way round this undeniable fact. If the population is not to crash, advanced nations cannot, in capital letters, continue their current trend of having birth rates ranging over 1.5 kids per woman to even under 1.0. So, for an upper middle class woman who wants to have kids, and in brackets, for bachelor level women, just subtract 2 years from the ages given below, and to have a well-paid career, then the following CMT, Career Mother Timeline, is suggested. She studies career competent majors at high school, for example, STEM, that's science, tech, engineering, math, etc. She graduates high school at 18. She then does a bachelor degree in a career competent major, e.g. one of the sciences or the professions, for example, medicine, law, dentistry, architecture, etc. This will make her 21 when she graduates college. Professions like medicine add a few years for the extra study. Add 2 more years to get a master's, so she's now 23. She works for 5 years to establish her expertise in her job category, making her 28. She then has her first kid at age 29, her second at 31, so that the second kid is off to kindergarten by the time she is 35. She has these 2 kids well within her fertility window, which runs out after age 35 to 40. She has taken 6 years off her career in order to bond closely with her kids, instead of having some other woman be their nanny, that is, paying some other woman to raise her kids, which rather destroys the point of having kids at all. In order to overcome the objection that may be raised at this point, that employers will be reluctant to hire women, knowing that in a mere 5 years these female hires will quit the company to have babies, whereas with men who can't have babies will probably continue to work full-time and hence be more profitable to the employer. Masculists can join forces with the third-wave feminists who are out to achieve real female power by imposing quotas on companies so that half of their positions go to women and half to men, so that women who quit after 5 years are not discriminated against. The encouragement of women to have babies so that we do not wipe out whole populations is everybody's business. Men's and women's, that is, masculists and feminists. So masculists who care about whether whole populations do not wipe themselves out need to join forces with the third-wave feminists who aim to increase women's power so that employment quotas, etc. for women are imposed by law, so that every non-small company is forced to obey them. Why is it in a masculist self-interest to join forces with the third-wave feminists pushing for greater female power? Because it is in masculist self-interest that women become real FIPs, that's financially independent persons, pulling their financial weight by fipping up and getting a career-competent education that will enable them to be real FIPs as adults, earning good money, and not expecting fluffy style to be able to parasite off the money and labour of a man. If a man has a female partner who earns as much as he does, thanks to the government maternity benefit, then he will be freed from the burden of being the principal breadwinner for the family, which will liberate him. It's in a feminist's self-interest, if she wants to have babies, to have a man around who is prepared to help pay for the costs of the kid. But with the fluffy feminist hypocrites who have taken over the divorce courts, 2/3 of young men in many countries now refuse to marry and have kids, since they refuse to face a 1 chance in 4 of being financially massacred by the hated fluffy feminist-dominated divorce courts. So masculists put real moral pressure on women to vote with men, to mend fair the gender laws, reforming the divorce courts so that they are fair to men, bringing in the that's paternity rejection right, removing the many gender laws that discriminate against men, etc. Conversely, men, masculists, need to join forces with women so that it becomes possible for a woman to earn as much as a man and to have kids, since in this biological world it's only women who grow kids. So while she is busy with them when they are small, she needs to be able to bring in money at a similar rate as her husband or male partner. For this to happen, governments will be needed to pay her a maternity benefit, so that millions more women decide that it is worthwhile to stay at home for 6 years, raising her 2 kids to kindergarten age and not lose a ton of income. To prevent employers from preferring to hire male employees to female employees due to the fact that men don't get pregnant, an employment quota system needs to be introduced so that all companies over a certain small size are forced by governments to employ half men and half women, with the expectation that their female employees will take 6 years off to have kids and not suffer from income loss due to the government's 6-year-long maternity benefit. This is the end of part 1.